So I think it was the last video that I mentioned that I have a soft spot for moss-covered trees. I love them. And nowhere in the world is better for moss-covered trees than Olympic National Park. So right now we're on the edge of Olympic National Park. We're gonna be going a little bit deeper in later in the day. We are in the Quinault rainforest, and we're gonna be heading to the Haut rainforest later in the day. But first we're gonna see what we can find here. Olympic National Park is different than a lot of parks because it's not one of those parks where you can just pull up and be like, oh, here's Olympic National Park. You have to hike to fully enjoy this place. It's really a hiker's paradise. There's so many really beautiful trails. It's probably obvious I'm not a huge hiker. Well, maybe I am a huge hiker. I'm a big hiker, but I'm a photographer first, hiker second, or maybe even third. But it's a lot like Zion or North Cascades National Park. You have to get out and hike on the trails to fully enjoy it. I'm not sure that I see an image here, but man, this is beautiful. Nick approves. It's getting warm. This is one of the things I like a lot about the Shimoda 60 liter. It's a lot easier to stuff things like coats inside of it. So down here below me, we're at a place called Cascade Falls. Honestly, it's a little bit underwhelming. I'm a little bit spoiled being from the Pacific Northwest. I've turned into a waterfall snob. But this back behind me, I feel, is actually a lot more photogenic. You kind of have that natural framing of the log up above. So I think I'm gonna shoot this rather than the larger fall that's back behind me that is the actual Cascade Falls. I'm going to shoot this at several different shutter speeds. Right now I'm trying it at 1/5 of a second. I'm going to also try one at a 1/2 second. Zoom in, see how these are looking. I think I'm liking the 1/2 second a little bit better for this particular shot. I'm going to also try composition where I'm shooting just a little bit tighter. I'm not actually including the top of this log up here. I'm just using it as a framing, like a border for the top of my frame. I do like how the water kind of zigzags through the frame. It's kind of cool. So far, this has been the only photo I've found on this hike. It's been about 1.5 miles long. Beautiful hike though, but I know that it's going to get more beautiful as we get deeper into the forest. So I'm excited to move on. We're not even inside the park yet, and man, just look at this. It's absolutely beautiful. I was really liking the way the trees deep in there are looking. This is one of those places where I feel like there's gotta be a photo, but it's probably the most challenging type scene to photograph. There's just so much going on. It's a very busy place. Let's see if we can make a photo. Generally speaking, when you have a really busy forest like this, telephoto lenses help a lot to simplify the scene because you're just not including as much of it. But I'm gonna start off with my wide angle lens because I think I can add a little bit of depth by including some of these ferns in the foreground. So we've lucked out with a really calm day. There's no wind, which is a good thing because we have so much vegetation. If stuff was blowing around, it would really be difficult to get nice sharp shots because it's kind of dim, and right now the sun is behind a cloud. I'm using fairly long shutter speeds, which means that it's really important that we don't have any wind. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to use these ferns as kind of just a natural leading line in our foreground. The circular polarizer is absolutely magic in this spot here, adding a whole lot of saturation to the shot. The problem that we're running into is that the sun is starting to poke out. And the whole reason I came up here is because we're supposed to have 100% cloud cover, and it's quickly turning into 0%. Overcast skies are a good thing for forest scenes like this because it doesn't limit the direction that you can shoot, and it's not as contrasty. Sometimes all of that direct light and contrast really makes forests very difficult to shoot. With the sun starting to poke out, it's going to potentially make for a good sunset. Keep our fingers crossed. Olympic National Park has a lot of really cool beaches, and we're gonna hit one of those tonight. So I'm gonna keep driving. Hopefully I can get a couple more forest scenes before we have to head to the beach. We're running a little short on time, so we gotta hurry. This place is beautiful. Headed to a place called the Hall of Moss. It's one of the more popular spots here in the Olympic National Park. It's where some of the trees are just amazingly covered in moss. Right now the sun is cooperating. Check out what we have going on back here. Photographing areas like this is so incredibly challenging. There's no obvious shot at all. Basically what I'm doing when I'm trying to find a composition is I'm trying to obviously hone in on what it is that I like about the area. Big, gnarly, awesome trees, lots of moss, but I'm also trying to keep in my head, ideas of composition. So I'm either, looking for patterns, or I'm looking for frames within a frame. This tree and this tree, we're naturally framing a really nice tree in the background. I kind of cleaned up the composition by using those as natural borders. That way there's less of the mess. Less of the mess. I like that. So when you're photographing forest scenes like this, try to get really close to interesting subjects and use that to block some of the nasty distractions and the clutter. Try to photograph less of the mess. Such an amazing place. A lot of people though, like any national park, but definitely worth a visit. I would love to be here on a foggy day and to get really close to these and to have them disappear into the foggy mist. That would be so cool. But as it is, I think I've ran out of time for this particular location, so we're going to hop in the car and hopefully make it in time for sunset. We're gonna go to Ruby Beach and see if we can catch some light. It's kind of doubtful, but it's worth a try. So we're at Ruby Beach and it's actually looking quite promising. Nice cloud up in the sky, which you can include in a vertical composition. Got these beautiful ripples in the sand. Definitely some possibilities here. I'm excited. I think I've shot here once before. I didn't get anything that time. So I'm excited because it looks like we, knock on wood, could get something. I just love the sound of the ocean. Nice calm night too. And it looks like it's really gonna blow up out there. A lot of nice light happening on those heavy storm clouds out on the horizon. I'm gonna move and see if I can get a slightly different perspective or find a better foreground. So beautiful out here. Getting fairly lucky. It's not the most explosive sunset, but it's still quite photogenic, I think. Been a beautiful evening. Most of my compositions were vertical to kind of maximize my foreground. I feel like I probably got a decent shot. I'm gonna start walking back to the car. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.